Welcome and bienvenido to a new special series of My Surrogacy Journeys Podcast, Mexico City Edition Season 2. This is all about guiding American intended parents through their surrogacy journey in Mexico, and I am so excited to be here. My name is Jess. I am a mom through surrogacy, and I am My Surrogacy Journeys membership manager for all of our incredible American intended parents coming to Mexico City. So I'm by myself today. If you've been listening to any of our other podcasts, you'll probably have heard me with Michael or Wes or both of them. But I'm on my own today, and it's incredibly exciting to be here in the beautiful Mexico City. If you are listening to this podcast, wherever you get your podcasts from, try and check us out on YouTube, only so that you can see the gorgeous views behind us. Honestly, the most stunning skyline, not a cloud in the sky. It's absolutely beautiful, especially for a January day. And I am so pleased to be joined today by Dr. Michael Fernandez from the incredible fertility clinic here in Mexico City, Fertilidad Integral. Fertilidad Integral, or FI, because we like to shorten everything and make it an acronym. FI is our partner clinic, and we work incredibly closely with them to support our intended parents coming to Mexico City for their surrogacy journeys. And while there is so much that I want to talk to you about today, Dr. Maya, simply because you are absolutely amazing, today we are going to be talking about how we create embryos and that whole process, which is going to be really difficult to actually fit into kind of like a 45-minute episode, but I'll do my best. But first, before we start, can you just introduce yourself a little bit, talk about you and your experience in your career?
So it's lovely to meet you. It's lovely to be here. I'm really excited, kind of nervous too, but mostly excited.
You're going to be amazing. Absolutely amazing.
So as you already said, my name is Michael Fernandez. I OBGYN. I did my whole studies here in Mexico City. I am a fertility specialist, and I have been with Fertilidad Integral for all last year. I'm in charge mostly of the whole surrogacy program, so that's how I got to meet your amazing team. I am very happy. And as you know by now, the clinic is a very well-established place here in Mexico City. It has been going on since 2021. Mm-hmm. We have three... Damn it.
That's okay.
We have three locations. We are in Mexico City, in Polanco, in Metepec, which is close to Mexico City, and we have another one in Guadalajara. So the clinic has been expanding recently. I think one of the best parts about the clinic, I mean, it's a lovely clinic. You will eventually see it yourselves. But one of the best parts that we have is the lab. And the lab is one of the most important also because that's where all the magic happens.
Yeah.
That's where we create the embryos. So what is embryo creation? I know that you want to know what this is. What is that embryo to begin with? So an embryo would be whenever we have an egg and a sperm and we put them together and we fertilize them. The egg begins dividing, and over the time, about 5 days, we will be having an embryo. An embryo is what we put inside the uterus to have a baby eventually.
Mm-hmm.
So far so good.
Yes, no, that's absolutely amazing. And thank you for that overview, because I mean, I think a lot of us probably learned about embryos and what they are and how they're made, maybe back in like high school biology. But for a lot of us, and particularly those of our intended parents who have not necessarily been through an IVF process themselves, it's important to know how many different components there are and, the different roles. And you talked about the lab and how important that is, because that's actually where once, and we will talk about this, but, once the egg and sperm, which are collected separately, come together, that's where they grow. And it's a really important environment. And if you don't have a good lab, if you don't have good standards and protocols, there's a lot that can go wrong.
So if you can have the most beautiful clinic of the world, but if the lab is not up to it, it's kind of worthless.
Exactly.
And I think one of the best parts of the clinic is lab, because it's up to standards in the US, in Europe, and everything that we have has been set up so that we have that our KPIs are at least at that point. So to be honest, we're over them, but we are very, very strict with all of the levels for the machines and the cultures, and everything has to be set up to date so it is in a perfect state.
Yeah. amazing. And I think it's really important for our listeners to know that, one of the reasons why particularly I'm here in Mexico City this week is not only to record all of these amazing podcasts with all of our incredible expert guests, but also because we had a conference here. And as part of that conference, we had people coming in from all over the Americas, from Canada, from the US, other partners from Mexico. And we had an event at FI, and oh my gosh, the compliments that we got from and we had other clinicians, we had embryologists there, we had other reproductive endocrinologists, and they were all so complimentary of the clinic, the feeling of the clinic, how comfortable they felt, the small details. We were just talking about, how amazing it was that, and this is something that for you was quite standard, but for a lot of us who have been in American or other fertility clinics around the world, just as something as simple as having an individual bathroom in every treatment room so that you don't have to be running through the hallways in your gown, to relieve yourself after a treatment. And also the lab. I mean, we had an embryologist there who does work with the FDA to make sure that laboratories are FDA compliant. And she was so complimentary of the protocols, and she really gave you guys a grilling when she was there.
We are very strict about every protocol. Like, we have alarms set up all the time. So if the temperature in the lab goes down 1 degree, everyone's like, what's going on? We have to fix it this right this moment. So we are very, very strict about our controls. So I think that's one of the best parts about the lab. It's just like, I stop it. It gives you to see how good it is run.
Yeah,
been run.
No, that's absolutely amazing. And, for any intended parent who wants to come and visit your clinic, is that something that you guys are happy to do, to show them around and to give them that sense of relief?
Yes, of course. I mean, they cannot go inside of the lab.
Oh, of course, there's protocols.
Very strict, yes.
Right, because of those very strict protocols.
We can show them around. The clinic is lovely. Usually when I get a patient, not necessarily an intended parent, but a patient, because at the moment, I think about 20 to 25% of our patients, like overall the clinic patients, are either from the United States, Canada, Europe. So we have a very big amount of not Mexican patients.
International patients.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, we usually give them a tour around the clinic. We show them the exploration areas. We show them the yoga area. We show them.
We have a yoga area.
Yeah, yes.
Oh my gosh.
We don't use that much, to be honest, but
it doesn't. Hey, can I come in later and just get a massage in your massage area? That sounds amazing.
Or patients kind of prefer the acupuncture and the massage area. They do.
I don't blame them.
I mean, they do tend to go on the pamper me side. Yes, let's exercise side.
Yeah, fair enough. I would say.
Yes, of course. We also have like a tiny cafeteria. So you get in, they ask you, okay, sorry. So when you get into the clinic, like this, let's fake a walk-in. Okay, you get in, you get received by the reception staff. Most of the staff in the clinic is bilingual, so you will have no worries. Because this is a question again a lot. So will there be someone there who can understand me?
Yes.
Yeah. There's even some tiny bit of French speaking, but not that much. But English, most of the people in the clinic speak it, more or less, not everyone in the same degree, but everyone does. So you will be received by the reception staff. They will ask you like, do you want a coffee? Do you want a water? What can I do for you now? Then you will be seated at the reception in a normal first time visit. So you will be brought to the consultation room, and we will make you there. We will have one-on-one consultation when we will speak about your past medication, about the treatments that you've had, about your expectations, your wishes, like how we can meet in between, like what you want, what it can offer, and the best way to get there. Then we will do a clinic exam, which is in the room next to it. We have an ultrasound there. What I usually do is I do the ultrasound, and when I'm doing it, I'm explaining to you, like, what this is your uterus, is the amount of follicles that we're seeing, all of this. Yeah. Because sometimes you go, and this is something that people have told me about a lot. Like, they go into the doctor and they have no idea what they're seeing. No one tells them anything. And then you're just like, okay, good, go.
Yeah, it's a mystery. And actually, if you've ever had an ultrasound before, unless you're an expert, you
don't know what you're seeing.
No idea what you're seeing. Yeah.
So I like to give them this input, like, this is what's going on. This is your body. here get to know it.
Yeah.
Because no one lets us know about this. And even my patients are like, how are you seeing anything in there? And it's like, well, training. It's like I had a teacher who used to say, your eyes cannot see what your brain hasn't been trained to find. Which is true.
Yes, I love that saying.
Mhm.
That's true. Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
So once we're done with that, we see the male in the couple. If it's depending on the type of couple, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm going first with a heterosexual couple.
Okay.
What we suggest is doing a sperm test. If it's both males, then we suggest both of them to do the test. Obviously, there would be no ultrasound in that case.
Yeah. Yes.
But once we have the studies for both of them, meaning girl, boy, and boy.
Yeah. Or single intended parent as well. Yeah.
Yes, or a single intended parent. We still have to check how they're doing and how can we like to decide the best route that for them, depending on the type of. I don't want to say couple, but intended parent that we have in the way.
Yeah.
So we have to take into account their past, their present, and their future, what they want to do with all of this. So once that we have a plan, we begin the stimulation and the embryo creation. In case it is with, for example, a fresh egg donor or a frozen egg donor, we modify it a bit than from the fresh stimulation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so whenever we're ready to create the embryos and start the stimulation, how it goes. So I would basically be seeing the girl, which could be, for example, fresh egg donor or
the intended mother.
I would see her usually day 2 or 3 of her period. We would be doing vaginal ultrasound, blood work to check how her hormonal levels are working. And then we begin the medications. The medications are applied usually in a 10 to 12 day lapse. This is an average. 90% of my patients will fall in here. Might be less, might be more, depending on how the ovaries react. So in those 10 to 12 days, I see them 2 to 3, 4 times, depending on how the ovary is going.
Okay.
From the first checkup to the second, we're going to have between 4 to 5 days, and then every 2 days. Because the first days are kind of slow in there.
Yes.
Then after that, they pick up the pace. So the idea is to get the follicles, like the tiny eggs, from 4 to 6 millimeters all the way until they reach 18 to 20. Once that happens, we do the trigger shot, which is going to give the egg the final maturation. So it is ready to come out.
To be released.
Yes.
Yeah.
Once this is ready, 2 days after the trigger shot, what we're going to do is we're going to prepare the woman for the extraction. The extraction is done at the clinic. We have our own operation room.
Yes. Yeah.
We have our own operation room. Everything is done at the clinic. The extraction is really quick. It lasts anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes. It is done with light sedation.
Okay.
So basically, there's no tube down your throat because it's not general anesthesia. You just basically sleep.
Like a twilight anesthesia. I think
that's how you do it.
Yeah.
So basically, you're just asleep. So you're not uncomfortable during the procedure. But it's quite nice.
As somebody who I've done multiple IVF journeys myself in my journey to become a parent, and I have done retrieval cycles where I have been under this light sedation, this light sleep, and it was lovely. And I have also done them where I am wide awake, and I can I can tell you it is much nicer when you were asleep. So
I've not here, but while I was in training, we at another clinic I was doing a rotation. They did them with the patient awake and just like a local anesthesia.
Yeah, I think
I do not like it.
No, mine was like I have no idea what it was actually, but it's like I called it a happy pill. I don't know what they gave me. So it was it was not as comfortable as it was when I was asleep. So
and the thing is, being asleep lets you relax too.
Yeah.
You don't know you know what's gonna happen, but you're not actively like, what's going on?
Yeah, exactly. Looking around.
Pain involved doing that because you're asleep.
And I assume also for REs or for the person who is doing the retrieval, it's actually easier because the person's not like tensing or twitching if something accidentally hurt, they're relaxed.
Yeah. So it's nicer for you and for me.
Yeah. Perfect.
I also had a patient once that when she woke up was like, "Do they sell this stuff on Amazon? It's amazing." So it's really chill. You wake up like you had the best nap ever. Once that they wake up, they remain in the recovery area for around 30 to 60 minutes. I usually have a nice nap. When they wake up, we take them to the living room so they can have a cookie, they have some water, because they would be fasting for this. So you've been fasting for a long time, and you went into surgery, so I want you to eat something.
Yes.
Make sure that you feel well.
And you're fasting because it is, even though it's light anesthesia, it's still anesthesia.
Yeah, it's still surgery. Even if it's fast, and even if it's something we do every day, 2 times a day, or 4, whatever number,
Yeah.
it is still surgery. So we have to take care of you.
And do you have an anesthesiologist at the clinic who works with you? Okay.
We have 4, actually.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Yes, but there's usually 1 per procedure. If it's a complicated patient who needs more than 1, they will be there. Same with the doctors. If I see that it is a retrieval that's going to be hard, there can be 2 of us in there. We don't scattermate on personal. If we will give you what you need.
Great.
Okay. So after that, you can go home here in Mexico. I usually take my patients the day of the retrieval. You go home, you do Netflix and chill, you scratch your belly, you pamper yourself. That is a day.
Yeah, real Netflix and chill.
Yeah, real Netflix and chill.
Not the other one.
Yeah, it's a day for you to pamper yourself, to relax. You might have some cramping, light cramping. You might feel tired for the anesthesia. So I usually tell my patients, take that day for yourselves.
Okay.
That day of the retrieval is a very important date, because we will ask for the sperm sample. Or if it's a same-sex couple, we will ask for both the samples if they want to do it that way.
Okay.
I've had patients who want to do, for example, same-sex couples, and they have the egg retrieval, and then they want to split the amount of eggs and do half with one sample, half with the other sample.
Yeah.
Can be done.
Yeah. And many of our same-sex male-intended parents at My Surrogacy Journey like to do that because they each want a biological link to a child. And if they're having siblings, that's a great opportunity.
Perfectly double.
Yeah. For them to each have a biological link to the child, but also for the children to have a biological link to each other.
Yes. So because they're using the same donor, so it's just a great idea.
Yeah.
So that's the day. If it's heterosexual couple, what we will do, we will ask for the sperm sample, and that day we will let you know the amount of eggs that we retrieved, and we will put them together with the sperm, depending on the sample. So if the sperm sample looks very, very good, or if the sperm sample looks not so good, or embryologists will decide if they do conventional IVF, which means they will put a drop of sperm where the egg is and let it go in as natural as possible.
Yep.
Or if they will decide to do ICSI. ICSI means that they will take them sperm by sperm and inject them into the egg.
Yes.
If we have a normal sperm sample, there's no benefit in doing either. If the sample is not so good, or for example, if I have a patient who has a vasectomy, where we need to do a testicular biopsy to take out the egg, the sperm, we will do ICSI because we have a very small amount of sperm. In that case, yes, we will always be doing ICSI. If we use frozen eggs, for example, it's also ICSI that we'll be doing.
Okay.
Because in order to freeze the eggs, we take out the outer layer.
Yeah.
So they can only be fertilized through ICSI.
Ah, okay.
So whether we use IVF, like conventional IVF, or ICSI, depends if we're using fresh or frozen eggs and the quality of the sperm sample.
And what about if intended parents have sent frozen sperm?
We can use either, depending on how the sample was before the freezing. Before the freezing, sorry. Like if the sample was bad from the beginning, we
do ICSI.
Yeah. If it's a great sample, we can do IVF.
Okay. And just to reassure intended parents, that decision will be made with the embryologist and with the best outcome in mind.
Of course.
Okay.
We will see what will give them the best chance of having fertilization first and an embryo. Because yes, of course, it will affect their chances. If, for example, we have a very, very bad sample and we decide on going on IVF, might not be the best decision.
Okay.
So yeah, but the embryologists decide based on their experience and the quality of the egg and the sperm, what will give them the best chances. Sometimes they even do half and half, like half.
Okay.
We can do IVF, half ICSI, depending. Like we will also analyze the past cycles.
Yes.
So for example, if they did, this has happened with couples before, they had 3 cycles where they did IVF because the sample was really good, but they got no embryos. So we will switch to ICSI. So we will adapt depending on their past history and how everything looks at the moment. So we will try to we're not repeating the same, because if you keep doing the same, you will be getting the same results.
Yes. Yeah, if it doesn't work the first time, you need to try something different.
Yes, of course. So we will adapt.
Okay. And out of curiosity, how do the embryologists, if they're doing ICSI, how do they choose the sperm that they're going to be injecting into the egg?
So out of the whole sample, they will look for the one that has the best morphology, so the best shape,
Okay.
and the one that moves the best.
Okay.
So they look for certain qualities in the sperm, like how the shape of the head is, how the shape of the neck and the tail of the sperm, how they move. So they will look for the best one. They also once they have the sample, they prepare it. So they what would be the word? You can say they filtrate it. No, filter them.
Filter them. Yes. Okay. No. That's you're the one who's doing this in English. I'm so please don't worry.
Basically, once we have the sperm sample, we process it. They go through certain filters, like literal filters.
Oh, okay.
Take out the best of it. And once that we have the concentrated sample, they will look for the best in that. So we already filtered the bad ones.
So like they're effectively going through like a sieve almost.
Kind of.
Okay. Like a very specialist sieve,
Yeah.
Okay.
So we filter them. Like we take out whatever is not looking good. And they go through 2 or 3 depending on how the sample looks. And at the end, we have like the best collection. And out of the best, we will choose one by one the best of the best.
Yes. Okay. Amazing.
So that also happens, for example, with vasectomy. We will take just one, and that's the one that we're going to inject. So per egg, when we do an ICSI, we will inject only one sperm. So it does give you a little bit more of a chance because you already know it went in.
Yes. But if an intended parent or intended parents have a good egg and good sperm, then ICSI doesn't have a statistical benefit to be performed. Okay.
I mean, we can do it if they prepare it. I mean, we will obviously speak to them. That's why I said between what they want, what I can offer, and like having a middle ground.
Yeah.
If we see, for example, that, I don't know, they've done ICSI before and IVF would be the best resource, we will speak to them. If they don't want to do it that way, I mean, we can compromise. But we will always be very honest and like, you know what, I think this is the best chance for you to obtain, for us to obtain what we want. Yes, it's not you, it's us.
Yeah. Yes. But I love the fact that it's a conversation between you as the experts, the intended parents as the patients, and trying to figure, it's not a one size fits all approach. You're not just kind of putting them on a conveyor belt and saying, this is what we do because this is what we do. It's having that conversation and figuring out from a clinical perspective and, from an intended parent's comfort perspective, looking at the whole history. It's that very tailored, considered approach.
And even like everything has to be tailored. It's like, for example, for stimulation, for egg retrieval, it's not the same for you as for me. It has to be, or for my sister, it has to be personalized on an age and weight and the amount of like egg reserve that we have. So it's not the same for anyone. Like even if you have a twin sister, you might not have the same egg reserve or you might not have the same weight. I mean, age, yes, because face. But everything has to be personalized. It's not going to be here. There's no one size fits all.
Okay, amazing. And so once the egg and sperm come together, either through kind of traditional IVF, I think is what you called it. So you have the egg with a
Drop
like from a pipette or something like that onto it, or through ICSI. Then what happens?
So here at the clinic, we use continuum methods. So we do not take the eggs out. We see them on the day of the retrieval. So, for example, your mediation on day 0, which is the day of the retrieval, I will let you know, you know what, Jess, we took out 10 eggs. Then tomorrow, I will let you know, we take them out, we see them, how many of those 10 eggs fertilized. Okay? So let's say 95% of fertilization, which is about the standard, depending on the age.
95%.
Really depends on the age and the quality of the sperm. But let's say we have a 35-year-old.
Yeah.
So I would be expecting around 95% of that with a good sperm sample.
Yes. Okay. And that's pretty high percentage. I mean, to me, I think that sounds.
Fertilization rates, usually we do very good. The developing depends a lot on age, woman's age and quality of the sperm. But overall, fertilization rates, we're doing really good. So about, let's say, 35 years old, good sperm, 95. So out of the 10 that we got, we have 9 or 10 that fertilized correctly.
And where are the fertilized embryos now? Are they sitting in a petri dish? Are they in a test tube? Like where are they?
Smaller, like a petri dish, just for the image.
Yeah.
It's like a petri dish, but they're smaller. They're about 5 centimeters wide. Okay. So it's a cultivation dish.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's the correct name.
But I can understand what you're saying. Yeah. So it's about
like a petri dish, but smaller.
Yeah. So like 1.5 inches, 2 inches maybe. Yeah.
They're in like a smaller Petri dish, and they're in there with a continuum medium. So we don't have to take them out and change them because we want to expose them the least. So we take them out the day after we retrieve them, so we can see the fertilization. And then they go back in and they remain there until day 5. So we only take them out twice. On day 1 to check out fertilization, and then on day 5 to check the amount of embryos. On day 5, I will let you know. Do you know what? Out of the 10 eggs that we had, we have 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever number of embryos, depending on obviously each personal case, no? That day, I will ask you, and you're a couple, or if you are going on an individual journey, like, do you want to do genetical testing on your embryos? Do you want to do PGTA? Okay, PGTA stands for pre-gestational testing for aneuploidies, which means if you say yes, our embryologists will be taking a tiny bit of your embryo, so about 6 to 8 cells.
And how many cells is an embryo comprised of at this particular point in time? So if it's day 5 blastocyst, which is what those developed embryos are called at this point in time, if I'm correct. How many, on average, how many cells would be in a blastocyst, a day 5 blastocyst?
I'm not sure.
Would it be, it wouldn't, if you're taking 6 to 8 cells, it wouldn't be out of 6 to 8 cells out of 20. See, hundreds, right?
It's about, my maths are not mathing, but it's a representation of your embryo, so it should be less than 10% of it.
Okay, less than 10%.
So,
okay.
I think it's 60 to 80.
Okay.
So we're just taking a tiny bit. So your embryo is still in division, so that's why I can tell you it's this exactly amount of cells.
Of course.
Because your embryo will still be dividing, so it will reproduce, it will recreate the cells again. So we're just taking a bit, and your embryo will eventually cover what we took.
Okay. And are the cells specialized at this point in time? So no, they're just general kind of biology cells.
So what we're going to take is, the idea is we take them, they take from the trophoblast, and what we're going to do is the 6 to 8 cells that we're taking, your embryo gets frozen that day. So it's kept safe because I cannot have it outside for 3 weeks.
Yes.
Which is what the results will take to come back.
For PGT testing.
If you say no to PGTA testing, we just freeze it that day. But if we say yes, we take the biopsy and freeze it that day too. Okay. The only difference that we will do the testing before freezing it. So the 6 to 8 cells that we send to the lab will take about 3 weeks to come back on a paper. And what they're going to see is they're going to analyze the chromosomes in your embryo. So they're going to tell me, you know what, embryo number 1, looked amazing. It is a boy or a girl, because they will also tell me the sex.
And if intended parents don't want to know the sex,
we won't tell them.
Okay. You will know, but
yes.
Yeah.
It will still come in the report. I will send this report to them and explain it. If they don't want to see it, I will cover it.
Okay.
But yes, one of the chromosome pairs that we will be analyzing will be the sexual chromosome. So we will know the sex. So for example, the page is going to come and say, you know what? We have 4 embryos that we sent, and the first embryo, looks amazing. And it is boy or girl. But you know what? Embryo number 2, it is missing a chromosome, or it has an extra chromosome, or this one just doesn't look good. So we know that this embryo is not a normal embryo, and it will not give me either a baby or be a healthy baby.
Right.
So what happens if I use one of these embryos? We do not transfer aneuploid embryos. This is how they're called. But if, for example, I do a transfer, I do not have PGTA, what can happen if I transfer an embryo that is not a normal embryo? Then we can have 3 options. Number 1, we have a negative pregnancy test because it was an embryo that was not normal. Number 2, we have a positive pregnancy test, and at some point it stops growing. So we have something that's called a biochemical pregnancy. So we had a positive, and then we had a negative because at some point it stopped developing. Yeah. Number 3, we have an embryo that begins growing, and then first ultrasound, everything's looking great, and then around the second one, heart stops.
Okay.
This is usually because this baby had something that was not compatible with life. So nature is very sage, you say it?
Wise.
Yeah.
Nature is very wise.
Nature is very wise. So the baby will stop developing because there's something that's not compatible with life on the long run. And the 4th scenario would be a baby that has something that is compatible with life. So for example, a Down syndrome. So all of this can be detected. Most of these very big mutations can be detected through PGTA.
Mm-hmm.
It is not something that you have to do, like absolutely have to do, but most of my patients do prefer to do it.
Yeah. And from a clinical perspective, with all of your experience, do you recommend it to intended parents? Is it necessary? Is it not? Is it?
Yes and no. Okay. I mean, I recommend it depending on the age and the background. So, for example, if in my family we know that there's something running that has been inherited, definitely. If there's something that we can identify, I would suggest it of 100%.
Yeah.
If we have a genetic mutation that can be identified, yes. Now, PGTA will only look for things that are in major chromosomes. So I'm missing one. There's like I'm missing a whole one. I have an extra one. There's a bit of this one that's not there, or it will find the big things. If it's a very specific monosomic like alteration, it will not find it.
Okay.
Now, what can we do there? For example, let's say I am positive for BRCA, which is the breast cancer gene.
Yeah, the BRCA gene. So, and by positive, it means that you are a genetic carrier for it.
So I can do PGTA to see which embryos I have that are normal first. And then once I know which ones of my embryos are normal, we can do a thing called PGTM, which it means precitational testing for monosomic disease.
Yep.
So it will look for that specific gene, so I can know which ones of my embryos have it.
Mm-hmm.
So it is great if you know you're a carrier for something and you want to look for it.
But what if you don't know you're a carrier for anything?
Then we can do carrier testing before all of this, if that one is an option. If, for example, most of the egg donors, they usually test them before. So whenever I get intended parents, they usually already have that.
Yeah.
Here in Mexico, it's not done that much.
Okay.
Like it's not
The carrier genetic screening.
Yeah, we don't do
CGT is what we call it.
It's not as famous as in the United States or in Europe. We should do it, but people don't want to pay for it. It's quite expensive.
Okay.
But once we have it, I mean, it makes a lot of difference.
And I will say for intended parents who are on our pathways to Mexico City, CGT testing is something that we offer as an additional extra. So it's something that we've considered, but again, not every intended parent needs to do it or wants to do it. Or for example, if they're using an egg donor who already has CGT and isn't a carrier for anything, then actually the intended parents don't need to do it, because from what I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you can be a carrier for something, but as long as the person that you are creating the embryo with is not a carrier of the same genetic condition, it's not there's no co-carriage, then then basically your baby won't have it. Your baby might be a carrier for it, but because it is a recessive trait, a recessive gene, it will not actually develop. Do I have that correct? Okay.
So it really depends on what you're carrying. There are some that are, for example, recessive traits and some that are dominant.
Okay.
If I have a dominant trait, might want to talk with a genetic specialist before to see if it's worth it to do it the other one.
Okay.
Because there's always a chance of you really carrying it, not necessarily expressing it.
Okay.
But it really depends on what you get on the CGT testing.
Okay.
And I also think it depends a lot on the personality of the patient doing it.
Yeah.
Me, for example, I am very obsessive. So if I could do the CGT testing, I would do it because it would give me peace of mind.
Yes.
Like it's not a necessity. It is an option.
Yes.
But I think, and that's my very personal idea.
I had it done too.
Whatever I can control will give me peace.
Absolutely. And that's exactly, when we were going through IVF to do surrogacy, that's what my husband and I did that. And it gave us that peace of mind.
Yes.
And particularly because we had been through an IVF and infertility journey before. And one of the thoughts in the back of our mind was, well, what if there is co-carriage and we're just not, we're creating incompatible embryos. So doing CGT, yes, it was an additional cost. And we work with an absolutely amazing, we obviously work with absolutely amazing doctors like you, Dr. Myla, but we work with an amazing company called iGenomics who
really good.
Really good. And they specialize in this, and they look for, I think it's over, we've done another episode where we spoke with Debbie, or
50.
I think it's like 550 genetic traits, which is much higher than the standard. I think in the US, the standard is about 350. So, you're going to get a huge amount of information about your genetics and your history. But for some people, that might be too much information.
Could be.
So
It depends. That's what I said. Depends a lot.
Yeah.
The personality of whoever is doing it.
Absolutely.
Like I said, for you and me, it gives you peace. But for some people, it's like, I have all of this. So
Yeah.
I think what it gives you is information so you can decide.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
information is always like a point of
A point of power. Yeah. Yes. Point of strength. I think that's a really good way to put it. So yeah, it's absolutely something that we offer. It's, and it's additional for our intended parents. But, for any intended parent listening, if you have questions about it, you can speak with our clinical team about it. You can obviously speak with your IVF doctors. You can speak with Dr. Mayela about it. So there's lots of information and resources available to you so that you can make the best and most informed decision for yourself.
now once that we independent of if we decide on doing or not the PGTA after it. On day 5, we will have it ready. Your embryos ready. So after that, it's up to you to decide when to use them. I want to say put them in, but use them. When to use them. The prepare. So overall, the timing, if you want to do the whole stimulation, the egg retrieval here, I usually tell my out-of-town patients to calculate anywhere between 15 to 17 days.
In Mexico City, if they're doing everything here.
If they were Mexico-based, I would let them, the whole stimulation lasts about 2 weeks, so 15 days.
Okay.
It's usually 10 to 12 days of stimulation plus 2 days for the retrieval. So let's say 12 to 14. I always say to my patients, I want you to remain here at least 3 days after the retrieval so I can do a checkup and make sure you're good to go home.
Okay.
I don't want them flying back to the US and then I'm not feeling good and I have to make a stop in the ER and it's a $3,000 bill.
Oh my gosh. So we don't want that either.
No. So I always tell them at least 3 days so I can see that you're doing good.
And how common are complications? Things like ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome.
So ovarian hyperstimulation is still quite common, like overall the world. It has diminished a lot because one, we know that there's a maximum dosage that we can give. Like after this line, there are no benefits and there are a lot of complications. And two, that's why every cycle is personalized. And every time you come for a checkup at the clinic, we will be doing blood work. So I can see your hormonal levels. If I see you're tending towards that side, we will diminish the medications. Sometimes still happens. And when it happens, it's usually a mild syndrome, which we control at home with pills and electrolytes. Thank God I haven't seen a severe hyperstimulation in a very long time. But they're still described, so they're still happening. We haven't had them. But it can
because you guys are very careful with your protocol dosing and stuff. That's why it hasn't happened.
That's why I said it really depends on weight and ovarian reserve age. We always modify this depending. We rather begin with the lower doses and adjust it, and we will do whatever we can to avoid this. But it can still always happen. I mean, it's a risk, like in everything, no? But it is, I think, I would say 1 in every 15 to 20 patients. It's usually a very mild syndrome. It's not that common, but it might happen. And always will react the way they want. We try to modify them, but that's why we do. We have strategies to try to avoid this from happening. But it is always a risk. I mean, in medicine, nothing is 100 over 0. Yeah. You always have the in-betweens.
Yeah. And it's about mitigating that risk.
It's about mitigating the risk.
Which, as all of our listeners will know, if you've ever listened to any of our podcasts before, especially one with Wes on it, it's all about mitigating the risk and lowering the risk as much as possible with really stringent protocols and, just doing everything the right way. And that's one of the reasons why we partner with you and with FI, because you guys have that care and that strict protocol for patients, yes, to give them the best outcome in terms of embryos, but also in order to minimize those risks to everybody.
My patients, of course, I want you to have a baby. Of course, I want you to get as many eggs as you want, but I will not risk you.
Yeah.
If we
do no harm.
Yeah. Yes, that's the first principle of it. I know you might want me to get out 60 eggs. It's not gonna happen.
No, gosh, no.
If we take out 60 eggs, we're gonna end up in the ICU.
Yeah.
So we rather do 2 cycles if needed, and just make it the way it has to be. We're not gonna overstimulate you just to get extra.
Okay. And one question that we often get asked from our intended parents, is it possible for them to start that stimulation at home and then travel to Mexico City for the retrieval?
Yes, we do remote monitoring. Sorry. What I usually tell my patients is, I need you to find an OBGYN or a fertility clinic that is willing to work with us. This changes usually depending on where they're located. I need them to have either a doctor or a fertility clinic that will compromise to help them have their ultrasound and their blood work done on the day 2 or 3 of their period. And then the fresh checkup can be there too. But the third one definitely has to be with us. So we can shorten the length of their stay about 6 days. So instead of 17, they have to be here maybe 10 or 11. But the most important part is to have a physician that will work with us. But yes, it's perfectly doable. We do it that way because also we need, I cannot prescribe them. My prescriptions are not valid in the US.
Of course, yeah.
Because I am not certified there.
Yeah.
So basically it's that we just need a doctor or a clinic that is willing to work with us. And yes, of course, we can do remote monitoring. We do it a lot, actually.
Okay, amazing. So that's great that you guys, again, have a protocol for doing it in order to keep everybody's safety at mind, to make sure that intended parents or intended mothers in this case are not traveling after a certain point, to make sure not only for them to be checked here on that, day 7, but it's also because presumably the later in the cycle they travel, the more risk there is to their health.
No, and also that's why we want to avoid, for example, hyperstimulation. So if we don't have the right protocol to control them to control the medication dosage while they're not here, things can go wrong. Not bad things can happen, but things can go wrong.
Yeah.
And we want to diminish the risk of that happening.
Absolutely. And I know that for intended parents, intended mothers, you have done stimulation at home and then traveled here. You guys work really closely with Debbie, our clinical and compliance director as well, to put in place a really strict standard operating procedure so that everybody, both yourselves, Debbie, and the home clinic, is happy, keeping the intended parent safe and, monitoring her at all levels, at everything. Yeah, we're quite strict. Again, for us, it's about minimizing that risk. It's about doing no harm. Yes, we want to compromise and make things as easy as possible for the intended parents, but not at the risk of anybody's health.
Yes. If the timing doesn't work, we rather cancel the cycle and see how we can make it work. Because if for some reason, I don't know, we cannot do the second checkup, we rather stop the medication. I know it's frustrating and it's money and time consuming, but if we don't follow the protocol the way it should be going, things can go, or they can go wrong.
Yeah.
And we don't want that happening. So we're very strict. Of course, it is possible. We are more than open to do it. Because as I said, a lot of our patients, I think about a quarter of them are international patients. Yeah. So I even have egg donors that are coming outside of the country. So I have egg donors from Dubai. I have egg donors from Morocco. What we want is for them to be very, very safe during the journey. So if it doesn't align, we will cancel, replan it, and do it the way it should be. There's no, but what if we do this no, it has to be this way. I know it might sound very stiff, but it is for the safety of everyone involved.
Absolutely. And that's our utmost priority. Yes, we want you to have a baby, but as you said, we want you to have a baby, but not safely and not at the risk of your health or your egg donor's health.
Yes.
Amazing. So kind of rewinding a little bit, there's just so much to talk about, and it's really difficult to do it in quite a linear fashion. So we were talking about PGT testing, or basically when the embryo creation process has finished. Well, not necessarily finished, but once the embryos have developed and have gone into the freezer. You said that the fertilization rate, on average, obviously depending on a number of factors, including the age of the person providing the eggs, the quality of the sperm health, etc., was about 95%. Can you talk us through kind of numbers or percentages that intended parents can expect? So, for example, say we started out at, just to give a nice round number, 10, perfect, glad we were on the same page there, 10 eggs collected from either the intended mother or the egg donor. Can you talk us through the numbers that intended parents can potentially expect? Again, understanding that this is very much dependent on circumstances. But I think it's really important for intended parents, particularly those who haven't been through an IVF process, to understand, because I know when I did my first IVF, and again, apologies, for anybody who's like, oh my gosh, Jessica, stop talking about your own IVF. But, I just remember when I did my first cycle, I was really surprised actually by some of the numbers and yeah, the attrition rate.
Yeah, because the numbers decrease and you're like, but I had 10, how come I have 2 now?
Yeah.
So it really depends on age of, like the woman's age is a very, very important factor, because not going to be the same retrieving 10 eggs at 35 than retrieving 10 eggs at 42. Especially because we as girls, well, everyone, boys and girls, we have this thing called, our cells have a reparation mechanism. And whenever we age, we lose this mechanism. So we're more prone to make mistakes. So that's why we have a higher risk of having a baby with, for example, Down syndrome at 42 than at 35, because we lose this mechanism. So while the cellular division is happening, we're more prone to have a mistake in it.
Yeah. So basically, if I understand correctly, so our cells just aren't repairing themselves as effectively. Okay.
It's like if, for example, if you fall and break an arm at 8, the next day you're going to be like, woohoo. And if we fall at this moment, we're going to be 3 weeks like, and if we fall at 80, it might not get together the way it should.
Right.
The same happens with your eggs. So if, for example, in order to do the division, they have to go this way. At 25, they're going to be like, ooh, this way. At 35, they're going to be like, I think it was that way. And then someone's going to go like, no, this way. And then at 42, it's just going to go this way.
Yeah.
And no one's going to care.
Okay.
So we're more prone to making mistakes in the cellular division. Just because we lose those mechanisms of correction.
So even for intended parents or intended mothers, I guess, because we're specifically talking about eggs. So even for somebody who might have a great AMH level, and AMH stands for anti-Mullerian hormone level, and that's a way that doctors are able to check the ovarian reserve. So effectively how many eggs a woman has left in her ovarian reserves and her ovaries. Even though you might have a high reserve level, if you're older, the egg quality might not be as good. So even if you have an AMH level, so let's say, for example, you're 38 and you have an AMH level of a 28-year-old, that doesn't mean that your egg quality is that of a 28-year-old.
AMH is great for calculating egg reserve, but it does not speak about quality. So I have had 42-year-olds. I'm not thinking, I guess 42 because I kept using it as it's a bullet. I just remember her in particular. I had a 42-year-old who had an AMH of 3, so quite high. Normal levels are 1.2 nanograms. She had a 3, so almost 3 times the normal rate. We retrieved, if I remember correctly, about 24 eggs. So great.
Yeah.
For her age, we got 1 normal embryo.
Wow.
So
that's quite...
image does not relate to quality, only quantity.
Yeah.
So having a good ovarian reserve does not mean I will get a healthy embryo. It just means I have more chances because I have more eggs.
Yeah.
But we do have to remember that as we age, we lose this mechanism of correction and we're more prone to having an alteration in our embryos. That's why, depending on the age gap is the number of eggs estimated that we need for an embryo. So this comes in the literature, but under 35, we will like to get between 10 to 15 eggs for 1 normal euploid embryo. I mean, that's like a very wide number. We usually get more than 1 in that age gap. 35 to 40, we will need 15 to 20, and above 40, we will need over 20 eggs.
Wow.
Now, getting over 20 eggs in your 40s is quite complicated.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the older we get, the more eggs we need.
Mm-hmm.
That's also why above 40, we tend to go a little more on the egg donor after we have cycles that failed.
Yeah.
Not that it is impossible to get your own embryo, your own baby after 40,
Yeah.
but it is a little bit more complicated because we need more eggs.
Yes.
And usually around 40, our ovarian reserve is lower.
Mm-hmm.
So getting, as I said, 22 eggs or 24 from a 42-year-old is something you should.
I mean, that's amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's still, yeah.
So we have to deal with the quality.
Yeah. Okay. And again, we're not, I do appreciate that those numbers might be surprising to a lot of our listeners. Again, that was really surprising to me when I did my own journey. But I think it's really important to set those expectations because, intended parents might be really disappointed if they don't understand, if they think that the number of eggs equals the number of embryos that they're going to get. And that's definitely not the case.
I'm going to use a very wide example. So let's go with 35, which we discussed previously, and a good sperm sample. By good sperm sample, what do I mean? A good amount in quantity. So numbers have to be right. Morphology, meaning shape, has to be good. And motility. So we have to have a good amount that has a good shape and that moves correctly. Okay, so let's just go very wide on that one. So let's say we have a 35-year-old, we retrieve 10 eggs and we have a good sperm sample. I expect about 95 fertilization rate. We usually at the clinic, we do very well with fertilization rates. We're about 80 to 95, even sometimes 100, depending on both of this. Yeah, we're doing good at fertilization.
Amazing work. This is why we work with you, Dr. Mayla.
And then blastocysts. Now, this really depends on both. I can give you an estimate for age, so let's go with a 35-year-old. So we're expecting anywhere between 30 to 45% of embryos. So if we had 10 eggs, I am expecting at least 3 embryos. But then again, it depends a lot on age and quality. So and now out of these embryos, we expect a 50% of euploid embryos. 50%, yes. So if I send 4 embryos, usually we will get about 50% of normal. This is worldwide, not just with us. At the moment, also, I forgot this one. This one is very important. When we do egg retrieval, we expect 80% of our eggs to be mature. Okay? And this is what it is worldwide. This is also the rate that we have at the clinic. So we usually compare our rates with the KPIs that are in that the ESHRE sets, the European.
Oh, we did this yesterday, the European Society for Human Reproduction and Embryology. I had to write it down yesterday when we were trying to remember it.
I think it's I know it in Spanish, so I have to
do the translation.
Translation, but our KPIs, we set them out to whatever ESHRE suggests, and we have been up from them. So I have very amazing graphics at the clinic that I did not bring. But our blastulation rates at the moment, if I remember correctly, are about 70%. Okay. We have per transfer, frozen embryo transfer, we have a 60% success, which is the same Europe, US. So success rates are very similar to the ones that you have back home. But it is perfectly normal that the amount of eggs that we get at the retrieval stage, it's not the same amount of embryos. This is perfectly normal. Even if you're 25 or 45, we will not get out of 10 eggs, 10 embryos. Yeah. I mean, it might happen, but it's highly, highly unusual. I think I've seen it once.
Oh, wow.
And I have no idea how many cycles I've done in the last 3 years. Yeah. But I mean, it can happen, but it will be the 1%. So the other 99 will go from maybe 10 to 2 or to 1 or to 3 or to 4.
Yeah.
So we will never get 100% blastulation rate from the number of eggs that we have. This is perfectly normal. It is not because you're doing something wrong or the sperm is horrible. I mean, might not help, but it is perfectly normal to lose numbers on the way. It is natural selection. That's what I was saying. If there's at some point the division is not going correctly, the embryo will stop developing.
Yeah. And actually that's, it sounds horrible, but that's what you want to happen, because if that embryo continues to develop,
sure.
Yeah, and it means that there's, the potential for miscarriage or, even something more challenging. So again, it's actually, as you said, nature is wise. And so if an embryo is not going to develop into a healthy child, while it's disappointing, perhaps to start with 10 eggs and, quote unquote, only get, for example, 3 embryos out of it, it's actually nature's way of protecting you and protecting a potential baby.
Yes. It will, if it's an embryo. So for example, yesterday I had this very interesting call about why we don't do day 3 embryos at the clinic. Because we have seen, and this is described in the literature, they're more prone to not implant. They have lower implantation rates. And usually clinics that freeze them on day 3 is because they don't think they're going to make it to day 5. So even, for example, if we got sent embryos that were frozen on day 3, we will unthaw them, keep them all the way to day 5, and then transfer them on day 5. Because day 5 embryos have a higher success rate and they have less abnormality rates. So if we have a day 3 embryo we rather let it grow. And if it doesn't grow, it was an embryo that was not meant to be.
Yeah.
So if they stop on day 3, it's for a reason. They wouldn't have been a normal, they wouldn't have been a baby.
Yeah. So I appreciate that this might be challenging to hear. It might be a little bit disappointing for anybody who's not been through IVF before. What can intended parents do to help improve the success rates, the potential increase in, good embryos that they finish on day 5? I mean, obviously there are some things that
They can do.
that can't be changed, but there are a lot that can be changed. So can you talk through what some of those things are?
So I'm gonna be the boring doctor here. But lifestyle matters, and it matters a lot. If you have, so for example, sperm, it reacts a lot on your lifestyle. If you are obese or you're going on the heavier side, if you have high cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes, anything chronic that has not been treated properly, if you smoke, if you love saunas or very tight underwear.
Which was surprising to me the first time I heard it. I was like, your underwear? Really? But it can make a difference, can't it?
Fact, yes.
Fun fact of the day.
Fun fact of the day, testicles are supposed to hang. Men were designed that way because of a reason. They should be 1 degree less than the rest of the body. So if you wear very tight underwear and they against you, the body temperature in that specific area will rise. And this will affect the formation, the creation of the sperm. So that's why, for example, a sauna once a day is once every now and then it's fine. But if you do it constantly, the high temperatures will affect the creation of sperm. So that kind of things that we don't think about, they affect us. So overall, it's a good lifestyle. So exercise, good diet in high in antioxidants. We have seen that, for example, for sperm, zinc, L-carnitine, omega, all of these things are very good. So if you decide on going on a multivitamin for men, look for the one that has these 3 things. Supplements for the gym are okay as long as you do not inject testosterone or
Steroids.
yeah, thank you on that one. Those will block the creation. They go and work all the way into your brain, so your brain blocks the formation of sperm. So all of those things can affect the sperm creation.
Okay, so like a protein supplement.
Protein supplements, fine.
Okay,
But
testosterone, steroids, no.
they will block the axis, the neuron on the axis.
Okay.
Smoking is a fertility killer for men and women. Some kinds of drugs too. So everything that's unnatural to our body will hit us.
Okay.
So overall, it is good diet. Supplementing can be good. Exercise. If you have any kind of chronic condition, try to have it under control. So diabetes is not going to make you infertile, but it will affect your sperm or your eggs if you are not well controlled. What else? Dieta, ejercicio. Controlling your stress levels. I know we live in a chaotic world. It is very hard. But there are some techniques that we can implement. Yoga, meditation, a time out with your friends. Everything that you can do to lower your cortisol levels will also help with fertility.
So that has a measurable impact, actually, because I know as somebody trying to get pregnant, the worst things that somebody can tell you is just relax, don't stress, it'll happen. But actually, when you're going through this, those cortisol levels will have a measurable impact on quality of eggs and sperm.
That's why also at the clinic, whenever we have a patient that's on cycle, that's
inner cycle,
yeah, cycle.
Yeah,
we have a psychologist, we have acupuncture, we have massages. So you can say 1 hour of the day for you to pamper yourself and take I mean, even if it's just a bit. Yes, I cannot take you out of work.
No,
but I can take 1 hour of your day off.
Yeah.
So, and that helps. Even if it's a little, it will help because your cortisol levels decrease and that helps a lot. In women, supplementing helps.
Okay. Any particular supplements?
I usually tell my patients I don't want you to have 17 supplements because then 1, you will have a horrible reflux.
Oh gosh. Nobody wants that. That does not help stress levels.
2, supplements are really, really expensive.
Yeah.
And 3, I've seen that the more pills you have, the less you will take them. So I usually tell them, if you have a good multivitamin, that will work. The only two supplements that I usually suggest my patients, because they are the ones that have the most studies, are CoQ10 and omega-3.
So CoQ10
Coenzyme Q10
and omega-3.
Okay. Omega-3 has also been, there was a very big study last year, and what's the name?
In a medical journal.
Yeah, no, there's a medical conference for gynecologists in the US. ACOG.
Okay.
ACOG, you say it?
Yeah, ACOG. Yeah, ACOG. Yeah.
There was this very big presentation last year in ACOG, ACOG, which is the very big one for gynecologists and obstetricians in the US. And it says, it was a study about omega-3, and it says that women who have lower levels of omega-3 during pregnancy will be more prone to miscarriages.
Oh.
And omega also helps for the development of the baby's brain. So it doesn't harm to have higher levels.
Yes.
And the thing is, we usually don't have enough in our diets. So these two are the ones that we have seen that help the most with egg quality. I mean, they're not going to give you super eggs, right? But they help it.
Okay.
So I think overall is just good diet. If you want to supplement, find something that has this too, or find them separately. Obviously, folic acid, of course.
Yeah, the classic. Yeah.
But overall, it's good lifestyle.
Yeah.
Not smoking, not drinking. All the fun stuff is bad for you.
Yeah. But I think it's also, sadly, it is the fun stuff that is often bad for you. But I think it's also important for intended parents to know that you don't have to
cut it off.
You don't have to cut it off completely. And even if you do, it doesn't have to be for, years and years and years. So, how long before an intended parent, male or female, starts on their reproductive journey, would you suggest starting to implement these life changes?
At least 3 months.
Okay.
I mean, if you're a very heavy smoker, as early as possible.
Mm-hmm. I mean, well, that's just good general health recommendations.
But overall, the rest, about 3 months.
Okay.
I think that's what most of the studies have seen, especially with the vitamins.
Mm-hmm.
At least 3 months.
Okay.
Before trying to begin looking for a baby or trying to go into an IVF cycle.
Yeah.
Also,
3 months is 3 months is eligible.
Yes. Also, studies that we suggest taking before, or that we need during the cycle, in case you want to do it here or begin in the US, we would be asking the couple for STD testing, which is HIV, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and syphilis.
Okay.
We also ask...
And that's all done through blood
work, yes.
Yeah.
If we're doing remote monitoring, we will ask the woman for a vaginal ultrasound where we can see the ovarian follicular count. So we know how many follicles, eggs we have to deal with. We will ask for AMH, the anti-malarial hormone, so we can calculate the dosage for them.
Yeah. Dosage of medication, of stimulations.
Yes. Because then again, it has to be personalized to their egg counts, of course. So AMH, CFA, which is the ultrasound. We will also ask for thyroid studies.
Thyroid studies. Okay.
Especially if we're doing the transfer on them. Because they're endometrial receptors for thyroid hormones. So even if it doesn't look like it has a sense of why we're doing it, there is.
And is there still, because, all of our intended parents would be transferring to a surrogate. So is there still an impact on thyroid levels for egg creation?
Yes, if they're very high.
Okay.
Because we want them to be the best at the moment of the extraction.
Okay.
So if our thyroid levels have never been diagnosed, for example, because some women never get asked for, like here in Mexico, I can just go to a lab and prick me and get whatever I want. But in the US, you need a medical indication for it.
Yeah.
A medical prescription.
Yes.
So a lot of women have never been tested for it. So if the thyroid levels are very high, we rather give them treatment for it. Once the thyroid is regulated, then we will do the cycle. Okay. So things that can affect my cycle, thyroid and prolactin, we will ask for them before.
Okay.
Prolactin is, in Spanish, prolactin is pro-milk. Okay. So prolactin is the hormone that will eventually let you breastfeed.
Well, it makes sense. Lactose. Yeah. So prolactin. I understand that now. Yeah. Makes sense.
Makes sense. But the thing is, if your prolactin is very high or your thyroid is very high, you might not even be getting your periods because they will mess up with your periods. So we rather fix this before doing the cycle so they have a higher chance. If your hormonal levels are regulated before the cycle, we will get a better result.
Yeah.
Also, this is very personal. I usually tell my patients to have a cycle of contraception before coming here, for two reasons. First one is to help them plan the timing, because I mean, you're not coming from the corner, you're coming from another country.
Yeah.
So contraception, it is not obligatory. It is a suggestion. It will help us plan on like your tickets and when you want to be here, because once we take it off, you will have your period the next 2, 3, 5 days. So we can estimate it. So we can help you plan. We can even create a calendar for it. And number two, it will make all of your follicles not similar in size, but
At the same development stage?
kinda, yes.
Okay.
So it will synchronize them. And as synchronize, it will help synchronize the follicles. So you will have a better result. Okay, so it's called priming.
Sorry, I interrupted you there. Say that again.
It is called priming. So sometimes it has double function. One, it will help us plan, which is great because you're traveling from another country. Two, it works as priming, so we can avoid having a residual follicle. What is a residual follicle? So sometimes in our regular cycle, the egg that was supposed to break and ovulate does not break, and it just remains there. And so when you get here on day 2, we see a follicle that's already 20 millimeters, and we cannot begin.
Oh.
Because this follicle that's already big is going to mess up the rest of your cycle.
Right.
So by doing contraception the month before, we can avoid this.
Okay, so it actually has in addition to just organizational benefits, it actually has a really
Precautionary.
but a really significant clinical benefit as well.
I mean, I always leave my patients the door open to see, because I have some that are like, no way, it's not going to happen. I don't want it.
Yeah.
It's perfectly fine. I just don't want you to get here and, we have a follicle, we cannot begin.
Yeah.
Because it happens.
Okay.
And if we're planning the whole trip, it would be like, it would be a downer to have you like, hey, you know what? Contraception, come back in a month.
Yeah.
And you already planned your vacations, and because you have to take the time off.
Yeah, absolutely. And for men, so everybody has to do the STD testing that you mentioned. And we talked a lot about the if a woman is providing her eggs, the specific testing that she has to do. Do men have to do any specific testing?
But I'm missing one.
Oh, sorry. Apologies. I've jumped right ahead.
No. For girls, we would be doing STD testing, which is, and again, HIV, hepatitis B, C, and syphilis. We would also be doing thyroid hormone, prolactin, and we will be asking for vaginal swabs. Okay, this would be chlamydia, gonorrhea, ureaplasma, mycoplasma, and a general swab. Why is this? Because in order to retrieve the eggs, I will be placing a needle through the vagina and into the ovaries. So if there's any kind of infection, I can drag it around. So this is basically to minimize the risk of infection.
Yep. And we love minimizing risk.
I know.
Yep.
I love that part. I am a bit overprotective. Whatever I can do.
And that's another reason why we love working with you, Dr. Mila, because we feel so passionately about minimizing the risk for everybody involved, and that helps us get the best outcomes, doesn't it?
Yeah. And for men, we ask STD testing as well, a sperm test, so we know how we're doing. We usually suggest one initial consultation. If everything's good, then we don't do anything else, and we just see them when they get here. If something is wrong that we can make better, we will begin treatment, and then we decide on when to do the rest. But that would be it to begin. We usually also ask for chlamydia and gonorrhea. That's it. If their particular country defines that they need something extra, we're more than happy to receive those exams.
Okay. But for you guys,
for me, that's all I need to begin.
Lucky men.
I know. Unless the sperm test is really bad, okay, can sometimes happen.
Okay.
We will decide if we need extra exams. But initial study would just be blood work for STD testing, chlamydia, gonorrhea, and the sperm test.
Okay. I know.
Oh, lucky them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel like I have been through an intro to Bio 101 course with you. This has been absolutely fantastic, Dr. I think I've done absolutely nothing except quiz you, but I think you have given our intended parents and prospective intended parents so much really valuable information. And for us, as you know, it's all about providing that information, providing that background so that intended parents can make the most informed choices for themselves. And again, I love that about you. I love that about FI is that you guys operate in exactly the same way. It's about providing all of the information, all that clinical background, all of the most up-to-date science and medical findings. And clearly you get to go to all these amazing conferences. I'm slightly jealous, but so that you can share that with intended parents so that in conjunction with yourself and with your team of embryologists and everybody at FI, you can, as kind of a collective group, make the best treatment decisions. But that includes intended parents, so they're never left out of that process. So I just want to thank you. And I'm in awe of your knowledge of the work that you do helping to build families. You have been absolutely incredible. I feel like I have learned so much. I don't even know where to begin, but thank you so much. And to all of our listeners, thank you for joining. We know that this was a lot of information.
Hope I didn't confuse you anymore.
No, and don't worry, if you haven't been taking notes, that's absolutely fine. I mean, Dr. Mayela, are you always happy? I know you are, but
more than happy. I'm a chit chat. You can always give me a shout.
I know this is the problem putting the two of us on the podcast together ourselves. But yes, we will be including all of Dr. Mayela and Fertilidad Integral's information in kind of the bio, the notes of this podcast. We are obviously going to be introducing our intended parents to Dr. Mayela and the team at Fertilidad Integral. We make a referral. So once you join as a member with us, you will meet with a clinical member of our team, whether that's Debbie, whether that's Danielle, and they'll be making a referral and introducing you to the FI team. So we have this all in hand, but we just wanted to introduce you to the incredible Dr. Mayela now and hear her expertise and some of the practices that they do at FI. And, hopefully you feel more informed. Even if you have been overwhelmed with information, you feel informed about your choices, about what IVF entails. And you don't have to know any of this. I mean, let's be honest, this is why we work with incredible experts, because they very clearly know all of this. We just really wanted to make sure that you felt informed and that, for somebody who's going into fertility treatment, especially fertility treatment ahead of a surrogacy journey, it's all really overwhelming. So if we can kind of prepare you and you can hear some of these terms and stuff now, hopefully it means that your clinical experience will be less overwhelming and potentially less scary as well.
What I want them to feel comfortable is if they have been through an IVF in the US, they can relate that it is the same here.
Absolutely.
I mean, the only difference is that you would have kidding. That you will
it's absolutely true, yeah.
But you have to feel at ease that it is the same protocols. We go, like you said, they send us to conferences, so it's the same. It's just in Mexico.
Yeah.
But overall, the clinic is doing its best, so you feel at home, even you're far away from home. And
you guys are incredibly strict about your protocols, about, we didn't even get into surrogate screening and stuff. We have another episode for that, but the standards to which you and Fertilidad Integral hold yourself, as you said at the beginning of the episode, they are at least equal to ASRM, which is the American Society for Reproductive Medicine, or ESHRE, which is the European Society for Human Reproduction and Embryology. Did I get that right? So you're not just kind of beholden to one, to one frame. You're actually comparing yourself to the two best in the world and making sure that you exceed all of their standards. So, I think, again, intended parents should feel really confident in the fact that you guys have actually some of the highest standards for your clinical practice across the world, really.
I that's what I said at the beginning. One of the things I like the most is the clinic goes very standard protocols. Our KPIs are very, very strict. So we have to be at the same in the lab in our clinical protocols. And if something doesn't match, the whole team will go into it. And so you're not just with me. It's 4 doctors in the clinic. It's 5 nurses. It's everyone will be with you. So you're not alone at any moment. You're very, how do you say, embraced?
Yes.
Yeah, it works. Yeah.
Yeah, it does work. Yeah. And again, from both Fertilidad Integral's, support and My Surrogacy Journey, you're never alone. Don't worry. You are never alone. So everybody, thank you so much for listening to us. Don't forget, there is another episode. In fact, there are lots of other episodes available. So whether you're listening to this through our app on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google, or YouTube, there is still time to get another fix. If you have enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, share, all of those wonderful things. And if you want any more information about My Surrogacy Journey's services or pathway, anything else really, head over to mysurrogacyjourney.com because we would love to help you figure out the best way to build your family. So Dr. Mayela, again, thank you so much for joining us. Yes. Thank you, listener, for taking the time to join us today. I hope you found this really educational, insightful, and reassuring that you are genuinely in the best of hands with world-class doctors and facilities. So don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and again, until next time, hasta luego.
Adios.